Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy, happy Super Bowl week. I'd like your general take. Where are you on the excitement scale from I'm more interested in Live Las Vegas or I'm not going to be able to sleep Sunday morning because I'm so excited about the game? Like what's your excitement level for this Super Bowl? I'm just curious.
I don't. It feels like a medium. Like it's
Okay.
Like what are you selling me here? It's a Super Bowl, so you don't have to sell me anything. Like it's the last game. It's the biggest game. It's got the pomp, the circumstance, the trials, the tribulation, the commercials, the halftime show, the trillion prop bet menu. Like you don't have to. I'm gonna make nachos like no one's ever seen before.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's gonna be some. Yeah, I'm
Nachos.
going to buy pork butts to smoke to make these pork nachos for the week for the weekend. So like I'm already at high, but it's another one that it's like we've had the Chiefs here, four times now.
Yeah.
It's been, we've seen the Niners make this run with the obviously the run with Garoppolo was different. We should have probably got the Niners last year. No disrespect to that Eagles team. That was a good team. But, like, if they had a starting quarterback, that game is probably given, leaning a little bit heavier towards the Niners advancing. So this is probably what we should, would have, could have seen. So it's like a medium as far as, like, matchup. Although, like, if you rank Andy Reid as your best coach just based on body of work, it's a it's tough to rank number two as far as the ones who are left in the league. I think I think there's like four guys that have a legit shot, but Shanny's right there. And despite what he's done in the playoffs over the course of his career, as far as turtling and making some piss poor decisions, his body of work, his, resume as a offensive mind, as a molder of teams, he's right there too. So I guess that's the big thing. That's like maybe the two best coaches, probably the best offense versus the best defense. Not probably. I mean, the Niners are number one in EPA and like everything offensively. So you got a really good matchup there. But again, I don't know what Super Bowl matchup would have excited me a lot more. It's some crazy team coming out of the NFC, like the Packers or the Rams, something like that would have been pretty wild, I guess. Oh, you are frozen hard, Drew. You're moving in.
Would you say Shanny has
Yeah, no, I mean your audio and video are fucked. You're not coming through right now. Moving in slow motion. Yeah, Taylor Swift versus Eminem Bowl. I think a lot of people would have liked to see the Lions too. That was another one too where they had it. They had that game probably at times. That's the storyline that's getting the least amount. I've seen people write about it. I've seen people mention this, but like the fact that the Niners have been front runners, and the Niners are a team that can't come back against a good team. And, certainly let's not put Baltimore, a team that, got out ahead of them and held that in the same category as like the Lions and Packers. But the fact that, they put it together in the second half of two straight games and became this, and they are like the Chiefs we've seen in the last few years where, the Chiefs that went up against that Texans team that got down big, the team that went up against, that Chiefs team did it multiple times and multiple playoff times, I feel like. Yeah, sorry that NBC didn't pay for the good Wi-Fi for Drew. I don't remember where he's at. Mandalay Bay, I think. He'll be back, I'm sure. This is sound like my wife every time I go out. He'll be back. Yeah, Drew didn't freeze us at the worst time. He could have froze. Yeah, and if you're listening in podcast form, Drew's having a little bit of tech issues, so I'll carry it. And yes, the chat is carrying me to where there was only one set of footprints. That's where the chat carried me. You guys have been great. Yeah, that's something I have been thinking about a lot. Is the 40 Mandalay Bay does have. Are you at Mandalay? I couldn't.
Yeah, man, I'm getting absolutely cockblocked on the hotel Wi-Fi right now. Sorry, man. No idea.
You hotspot. Your mic is coming in funny now too. I think you're on a different mic. Let's talk about those nachos. No, I don't know how much you heard too, but everything is so damn far from everything, Adam. Oh, you look a lot better now. You're a lot clearer.
Well, now I'm in the StreamYard app for whatever reason. I clicked the link, it opened in stupid Safari instead of freaking the StreamYard app. I don't know
you don't want that.
Man.
Even
Anyway.
when I do it on my phone, I have to open in Chrome. Otherwise, Safari really messes.
It's awful. I heard 99% of what you were saying until I de-appeared. I got to ask you though, does Kyle Shanahan have the most at stake, win or lose?
Dude, have you seen him? Just like pictures or like video of him?
Yeah.
It looks like it is weighing on him. Like he knows that Matt Campbell. Geez, talk about a guy who almost had an NFL job. Dan Campbell. Mm-hmm. He said that after their loss. He's like, you never know. We could never be back. I mean, G String George was in the chat. That was a quote from Marino later in his career when he got there as was it a rookie or his second year? It was really early in Marino's career. They got there, and he just assumed like, oh, this is a thing we're going to do. We're a good team. I'm a good quarterback, and never ever made it back. So you have to know, and Shanny's smart enough to know, like, I don't know how many more of these teams I can put together and get this kind of production, because you need to put the team together. You need to have the quarterback work out, and you need to stay healthy, because we've seen some pretty good Niners teams not look healthy,
Yeah.
And just completely piss away a season. I think he is. This is great. John Charles says Shanny's aging like a president.
Yes.
It does seem to be like weighing on him a little. He need like.
Yeah, Biden seemed more cognitively with it than Shanny did at Media Night on Monday for whatever reason. Well, let me kind of ask you a specific
question. He was pretty fucked up with that one.
So like Super Bowl week is always weird when you're doing content, because inevitably you just need something to talk about, and so you end up saying the same thing over and over and over again. And if you say it to enough people and you say it enough times, you start to make a very compelling case for whatever it is you're saying, right? Like you just kind of by definition get better at it rep wise. And so then all of a sudden you're like saying it to some random person like, wow, you really fucking love the Niners this week. Like, wow. No. Like, well, I mean, no, I think fair's 3 and it's 2. So this is a small edge. I think they have like a 60% chance to win. Money line is like 57. So 60 and 57 is only 3%. We're not talking about game changing, life changing shit here. And I kind of have gotten here just based on a couple of matchup things, couple of facts. We'll cover those, I think, in detail. But the NBC group that's here is relatively well connected to Shanahan, right? If you know some famous stories, there's some NBC employees who may or may not have Kyle Shanahan's initials tattooed on them, because they were, absolute, besties in college. And I will just tell you that through the grapevine, the vibes around the Shanahan camp are not great right now. Like the pressure is like really kind of a problem.
Full bridezilla. Like he's having a meltdown. He's been planning this wedding for many, many years, and he's having a meltdown as the flowers are not in time, and the caterer is calling the plates are different.
God. It's not like changing my opinion of anything really, but boy, is it shaking my confidence. Because like, I honestly, I don't understand why. I mean, I get it. Like, I understand why anyone would be stressed about this. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But, like, the answers are all there, man. Like, you don't have to come up with clever shit to beat the Chiefs on the ground, and you want to beat people on the ground anyway. Like, this is pretty much hand in glove. Just go be yourself, do your thing. Don't freak out about this.
I wonder if that is a little bit of a oversimplification, though. I mean, you're right. Like, your scheme should work, but at the same time, even during regular season games, you're seeing them put in fresh stuff, And that, let's say you put in a new sub package for the offense, and that's a play that's going to get run 2 or 3 times. Maybe you use it a few times here or there. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But like, as you're sitting here with 2 full weeks and the whole world watching you, and you're thinking about like little changes you're making or little tweaks you're making, like if one of those little tweaks you make ends up being just a terrible play, it turns into like, oh shit, they read this, and it turned into an easy turnover. God, like a pick 6 or something horrible because it was too easy for the defense to, read what was going on. Like I think that sort of stuff would eat at you, because in the regular season it is like, oh, that's bad. Like we lost the game. We had a really bad series because of some of the decisions I made in the game planning. But if it happens here, it's like people are talking about it on like NFL Network 10 years from now. It turns into the, why didn't we run Marshawn Lynch at the 1? It turns into the, why didn't the Falcons just run a couple of plays that worked on offense?
Yeah,
You're
right.
like 20, you're at the 25 with like a 9.
There's been some secrets coming out about that I'll tell you about off the air that I was kind of surprised by. But that's not really for public.
Yeah, I was going to say,
my story.
I didn't even. We're talking about the same guy. Jesus, I kind of forgot the connection there. So
yeah,
and that sort of thing. That sort of thing has to weigh at him too, because this was a team that had a killer defense and was up again. I mean, it's the same. It's role reversal. It was like the best offense versus the best defense.
Yeah, and
late in that game versus the Chiefs 4 or 5 years ago, the better offense got it done late. So, I mean, he has multiple, like, hey, we should have had this. I should have had this. I blame myself. And again, it goes back to the how many more times, how many more chances, how many bites at the apple. This could be it. This could be my last chance ever. Like I wouldn't sleep well at all. I didn't sleep good before, like, I guess I don't really worry about much, but like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the most stressful.
Well, it's like there's people that just aren't good in this moment, right? Like, you saw Ons Jabeur get to the Wimbledon final last year by being like elevating her game to a level that we had not previously seen to beat the likes of Rybakina from behind, Sabalenka from behind. She gets to the final against Vondrousova, who was nothing to write home about on grass. She's the favorite, and I feel like because she was the favorite, the pressure just absolutely crushed her. Right. And it does there's definitely whiffs of this because honestly, like, again, like, I don't understand. Like, you don't overthink it, man. Like, you got this thing in spades. And I cut the other kind of weird nugget or piece of information. You might say, well, I mean, if Shanahan's freaking out, is that a warning sign that he just like has lost confidence in Brock Purdy? No, that's not it really at all. Apparently, he's very confident in Brock Purdy going out there and playing well and being cool. So. I don't know what it is about Spagnuolo, but it feels like Shanahan has kind of holding Spagnuolo up as the boogeyman a little bit in terms of his.
Well, that's the thing. It's a team that blitzes. Spag loves his blitzes. He can, do some things with it, and it's a team that's been good against the blitz.
Sure.
So, like, you have. I mean, it's still a crazy good defense, and you have a very kind of. I mean, he's been talked about plenty. Now that we're in the playoffs and maybe the second half of the season, but like at the beginning of the year, we weren't talking about L'Jarius Sneed in the same like.
I didn't have him as like all pro CB1, but now yes, yeah, sure.
Like the fact that a team, and this is something we mentioned when Diggs went down. This is something we mentioned when Lattimore went down. Like the process of how you put together coverage packages changes so much when you lose a CB1. It works in reverse, right? I mean, when you didn't add him, he's always been on the team, but when he becomes like, oh shit, this is a guy who we can shut someone down with. This is a guy we can move around the field. This is a guy we can put on the number 1 and really start game planning after that. Like, it definitely changes what Spagnuolo is able to do with this defense. And I mean, the fact that you got Trent McDuffie too, and I mean, you got some good coverage pieces here. It's that matchup's unique. And I read something good the other day. I had to go find it because I haven't taken in any podcasts really.
Okay.
I've been busy. I've been doing some other stuff. I haven't been out in the shop. I haven't been out it hasn't snowed. I love it when it snows. I can go listen to 3 podcasts while I go clear the driveway. But I've been reading a lot and a lot of good content. I'll try to give shout outs to the people who wrote these things as I go, but a good one. And it was kind of left it open ended, but Jeff Fogel, who writes some stuff, some of it's paywalled, but he has free stuff all the time on Twitter. He dug in a little on that. The big matchup. Can the Niners just run roughshod? This defense, the narrative is the defense for the Chiefs is not good against the run. And
particularly against the zone run.
Yeah, and he picked into that, yards per carry, DVOA, bottom 10, bottom 5, right there. But third down conversions and red zone TDs against the run, top 10. It is a weird, you don't look at that bend but don't break inside of something like that. It's turned into where this is such a good defense in general, a defense who just doesn't give up, 24, 28 points very often at all, where I guess nobody stops everything. But the fact that they're, top 5 as far as points allowed, maybe it's one of those where, hey, we do allow the run. You are able to run it against us, but we're still not going to give up huge explosive plays. We're not going to give up big third down conversions against the run. We're going to, exchange that. You see that all the time where it's like, oh, they're giving them the underneath stuff, or they're going to let them try to beat. We're going to let Lamar try to throw against L'Jarius Sneed. We're going to take this away instead. Obviously, the game plan for Baltimore changed that, but it made me think a little. And at the end, I was agreeing with Jeff, and I said, man, this kind of checks out where it is like a conscious decision that you can't stop everything on every play. You can't be ready for every outcome. Maybe you're just willing to let teams be above average, because everything you're looking at with DVOA, with EPA per play, it's a relative number. You're looking at it relative to the rest of the teams in the league for the most part. And being bad against the run, I guess I'd way rather be bad against the run than, giving up gobs in the passing game. And then, I switched that around in my brain a little, and I got to the end of it, and I'm like, yeah, but it's still McCaffrey. It's still McCaffrey and this scheme. Even if it is, hey, this is a team that maybe it's a little bit, misleading that they're horrible against the run. This is a bad matchup for that to be tested, where, that thesis might be right, and we just might not see it out there on the field anyway.
I agree with that. And that's how I got to Niners, honestly.
Yeah. What is that? Somebody's saying I might be enjoying warmer weather than you. How warm is it? It looks like it's kind of been shitty out there.
50,
yeah. We were like
50. It finally was, there's snow on all the mountains around here. It looks pretty cool. But it's like 50, it's like 50 degrees, and it's going to rain again, I think. And it rained all day Monday, all day Tuesday. They squeezed in some golf stuff today, but that was
we were right around 50 today.
Okay.
Yeah, humble brag about the driveway size. I wish it were a little smaller.
So I guess here's where I'm at, which is that it's fine if you are weak against the run and you're conceding 5-6 yards, and the tackling for the secondary for the Chiefs is outstanding, and so it's not like I'm not expecting explosive runs and just get jailbreaks and stuff like that, right? But if you're setting up Purdy with 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 type of stuff, and they can lean into the kind of exotic Shanahan play action stuff, this should be not tough for them to have success offensively in this game with who's healthy and how they stack up from an advantage standpoint. So I'm not the other thing about when you have 2 outstanding cover corners like the Chiefs do, and really Sneed is 1A and I put McDuffie 1B, I guess. That if you're up against the likes of the Dolphins and you're going up against two guys who are high target share, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, best of luck to them. You are matching up perfectly. That's not really what exists, even though there are 2 known entities for wide receiver for the Niners, and Ayuk and Samuel. There's so many ways they could hurt you.
I think it comes down to your wide receiver 3 because it's
close.
close.
And your tight end,
it's close, but essentially your target share. number 3 guy, like it's McCaffrey.
Yeah, it's McCaffrey.
Like the fact that he is basically your wide receiver 3, your third option as far as target share, as far as usage goes. So it is quite a bit different. I know. So, I mean, just Zach Morris timeout. I don't have a strong side here. I'm right above 2.
Okay.
Like I'm 2.1-ish right now. So I will say, this is something I went back and forth with in my head. I think it was Sean Green, the SGPN guys. Like he was getting in online arguments with somebody saying like, how can you have a podcast around the NFL and not make a pick for the Super Bowl? Like I kind of went back and forth on that. I'm like, is it responsible? I'm like, fuck it. Sometimes you gotta have fun. So like, I'm gonna bet aside. I will bet aside. I feel much more strongly about the under than anything here.
Okay.
But I don't have a side. So for the purposes of this podcast, I am going to bet the Kansas City Chiefs money line and +2 just to bounce it off you just to play devil's advocate against your arguments for the 49ers.
Okay.
So I think that works a little better.
Okay.
And
so
I mean,
really, go ahead.
I was about to make a point for you. I was going to say like earlier in the season. So this is what troubles me though. Earlier in the season, there's good explanations for the Niners' losses.
Sure. Hey,
Trent Williams and Debo were missing. Hey, we were missing players. Plus, Purdy got concussed against the Vikings. We were playing. I mean, the Browns defense, that was one where they were missing multiple players. Like those are easy explanations for those losses. Obviously, the end of the year, well, they didn't play players versus the Rams. That game doesn't count. I do struggle a little with what we saw out of the gates against the Packers and Lions. And I want you to kind of, explain it away. Like what is going to change this week? Because the Packers defense was improving. It still wasn't good. The Lions defense was downright bad.
Yeah.
I mean, those were much easier defenses to play against. And we saw not a terrible first half, but not good, and an absolute horrible first half against Detroit.
Sure.
And now you're going up against one of the best defenses in the league with 2 weeks to prep for you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of explain why we're going to get a better first half from the 49ers this week.
Yes. So the first half against the Packers offense for the Niners was aborted because Brock Purdy couldn't handle the conditions with his small hands, weak arm. It was too wet. It was gross.
Yeah.
And he was awful in that game. Maybe he was a little choky in that game. There's lots of I would hang first half against Packers entirely around Purdy's neck. First half against Lions, I hang around Shanahan's neck because coming into that game, it was very clear that the Lions' one strength on defense was their run defense. The Lions' run defense is very good. They really tested it hard. And they found out the hard way. It's not going to be easy for us to matriculate against this run defense. And so I think ultimately you take 2 things away from this. Is it going to be this type of conditions that cause Purdy to suck in Green Bay? No.
I mean, it is raining, and it is raining. You just said that.
But it's going to be perfectly lovely inside Allegiant, I promise. And number 2, like if Kyle Shanahan is so stubborn, he's going to test your run game and make you prove that you can stop them first and foremost. Like, wonderful. You're going to do what Todd Monken should have done. Like, congratulations. This is great news to hear. So I think ultimately, even though this is a better defense than the Lions by a lot, particularly because of their pass defense, the way they're set up, I do think is a little problematic. I mean, because I guess here's where I come down on the Chiefs defense versus the Niners offense. Can L'Jarius Sneed just wipe Brandon Ayuk off the planet? Possible.
Probably.
Right?
Probably.
Ayuk might have been the number 3 wide receiver this year after Tyreek and CeeDee Lamb. He was unreal at creating separation. He was incredible at the point of catch. So he might get the better of Sneed. Sneed, I'm expecting to shadow him, and he may just take him out of the game. That's possible. It's much tougher to take Samuel out of the game because you can involve him in the running game, because you can involve him in the screen game. But I think it's fair to assume that the yak opportunities for Samuel will be limited because the tackling is so good from the secondary. That now trickles down to, okay, well, what about Christian McCaffrey? There, I don't think they have any answer. Every time he's matched up against the line.
Who does? I mean, it's just Sorry.
Kittle, same sort of situation. Juwan Jennings, same sort of situation, right? Like there's just too many things you have to account for on a given passing down to expect that you're going to have much success defending this Niners attack. And I think that's ultimately why the Niners' success is relatively high likelihood here, assuming Shanny doesn't, pee himself on the sideline. And so then we get to the other side of the ball, and I want to kind of pick on the unit that I think is the weakest here, and it's the Chiefs' offense.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs' offense can move the ball surely on the ground. Like they've proven that. Pacheco is an angry runner. They're getting good push for him. They're getting good, creating good opportunities, running lane for him. And in general, teams are so concerned about Mahomes beating them over the top that there's room to run when you are the Chiefs' offense, and it's a very different kind of feeling than we're used to with Mahomes' offense. Surely.
One more thing before because
Yeah.
I do want to turn to that side of the ball. I had a
sure.
couple quick things left on the offense versus Chiefs defense. Another issue we've seen, and again, some of it was in games where he was missing star players or was, had his brains rattled. But some of the biggest issues we've seen from Purdy have been holding on, like, that interception wasn't on him because it was tipped. Well, he also held the ball for a very long time and probably caused it to be tipped. We've seen that on some of the strip sacks and the tip balls, the interceptions, the sack, late down sacks like that, early down sacks are even worse. Like, what do you make of that as far as the blitz, handling the blitz, and then some of the 3-man rush stuff where they're dropping guys back and making them, because even if you have a light rush like that, and you have a strong, you have 8 guys back, and he holds onto the ball for a little too long, sometimes those guys end up getting there.
Yeah.
And that is really where Purdy has been an issue. And I think that's the biggest worry for me from a Niners moving the ball standpoint is like Purdy making some mistakes, because obviously the weather sucked the first week against Green Bay, and we're not going to have that. And I don't know what it was about the game plan that made him look so bad from Shanny against the Lions. Obviously, a lot of it was just running and putting him in bad situations down in distance. But this is a big spot, and
but I think ultimately you nailed it though, which is he was in bad situations down in distance because the running attack didn't work. Expecting the running attack will be moderately successful, he should have advantageous down in distance. In fact, I would be surprised if there's many obvious must passing downs, right? Like that's really where you see the coverage confusion and the blitz disguises and simulated pressures and actual blitzes. Like that's where those could be most effective. I don't think there's really, and Purdy was amazing against the blitz over the balance of the season. He was the best quarterback in the NFL against the blitz. So I ultimately think he can handle the blitz fine. And I think if you're asking the Niners to consistently protect deep into long developing plays, I would give Purdy credit for the second half of that Lions game where, if option 1 wasn't available, he didn't stand around and wait in the pocket for option 2 to come open, or option 3. He scrambled. And so, there's some growth there that you're seeing. I'm not as nervous about, blow up plays, even though Chris Jones has a very advantageous matchup, surely. It's just it's on must passing downs, and there may not be much must passing downs.
No, but I think there still will be plenty of I want to pass downs, because Shanahan has a game plan. He does stick with it. It's not like they're a team that's only going to run the ball. And kind of a good point is we were getting, the kind of last thing on this was some of the Spags stuff and what he's able to do. And it was Ben Brown, I think. Yeah, it was. Ben.
Yes.
He made a good point about, basically, he phrased it so much better than I'm going to butcher this, but it was a lot of, because it's such a yak dependent team, and a lot of their, route trees, a lot of their route clusters are short to intermediate.
Yeah.
And we have such good coverage. You're not just players, but coverage units who can hand guys off and still keep them in coverage. He's like, it's different if a guy's going on a go route and you got to bring a safety over. But he's like, why wouldn't we see a bunch of corner blitzes and exotic blitzes, stuff like that Purdy hasn't had to deal with as much from Spags, because you can blitz a corner if there's another guy that's, you have strong coverage unit behind you. So I think if we see the kitchen sink thrown at Purdy and he can't deal with it early, that's where I would be worried. Where it's like, oh, Shanny, like you just took a sack, but you're so dedicated to the run because it's working. Like, thanks for that 6-yard run on 3rd and 12. Like, this is, this is not how I pictured this going, and it's just a fucking repeat of the other 2 playoff games at this point. Although,
Yeah.
Final note on that was I was so impressed with the adjustments.
Sure.
And I do think the adjustment may have just been like when the light clicks in the movie The Great White Hype, and he's like, oh, like I should beat the shit out of this Irish guy. Like, I'm just a much better boxer. I don't know what the deal was, but it just kind of turned, especially against the Lions. Like, oh, our offense is a million times better than our defense. Why don't we just score on every drive?
Yeah,
that would be much better than what we've been doing. Only other note I have for the Niners offense is the comebacks have been nice, but I would hate to see a comeback that leaned on the kicker at the end.
Yeah, sure.
Iffy at best, especially on the other side. If you want to go, those charts where they do all the things and they have edge, Chiefs, edge, Niners, like kicker. There's a massive gap between kickers here.
That's very true.
All right, you were starting in on the Chiefs offense.
Yeah, so I guess ultimately I just want to summarize the Niners offense versus the Chiefs defense is I think that the answers to the test are more readily available, which is why expecting some early success, expecting the Niners to be able to get into a positive game state, I think is realistic, which makes laying the points with them against Mahomes more tolerable. The Chiefs
and you did. Somebody Patrick pointed out, Purdy did deploy his legs a little more late in that game.
Sure.
We saw Josh Allen just, up and down the field, kind of the middle and late part of that game when he started to take off, he wrecked them. If Purdy's never Josh Allen,
right?
But if he does, a little Josh Allen impression 4 or 5 times in the second half, it's gonna be massive.
Yeah, I agree. So the Chiefs offense, I think, has a tougher task, which is they're going to have to try to get it done with just a motley crew, a motley cast of characters. If I think about how the Niners defense will approach this game, I'm expecting them to be a little bit more willing to load the box, to stop the run, to force Mahomes to beat you with options 2, 3, and 4, right? And if you have good coverage with Ward on Rashee Rice, and now you're okay, now go beat us with MVS and Mecole Hardman and Justin Watson. Like, this turns into a really fun game backing the Niners, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I look at the Chiefs as a team that, they got by to the AFC Championship game round by playing 2 defenses that were very, very injured, particularly at the linebacking level for the Buffalo Bills, particularly at the pass rushing level for the Chiefs. They are also playing at a very positive game state for most of the Ravens game. Would you dispute any of those facts?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I will not, Your Honor.
For those reasons, we don't really know how bad the Chiefs' offensive line is, particularly with respect to quick pressure and particularly without Joe Thuney. Like, we don't have that answer yet. And I think the answer might be they stink, particularly the tackles up against Nick Bosa here, right? So if I'm in Steve Wilkes' chair, I'm thinking, forget about the blitzing, forget about the exotic pressures. We're just going to stack the box. We're going to tackle well. We're not going to let Pacheco get 6 yards of carry. We're going to give him 2.5. And we're going to make long third downs. We're going to force Pat Mahomes to try to make plays down the field to his alternate weapons, and we're going to make sure that those plays take a long time to develop and hope that our pressure can get to Mahomes before his guys can come uncovered. Because that recipe worked well to stop the Chiefs in the second half for the Ravens. And people have kind of completely lost the plot on exactly how bad that Chiefs offense was in the second half. They were useless. Like, there's a common whiff going around of people hand waving that, like, they just put away. They didn't have to. Yeah. One of my good friends made a great comment. He's like, yeah, they just kind of they put away the pool cue. Like, they were like, yeah, this is over. Like, we don't need to do anything fun, right? But at the same time, like, they were like just phenomenally outplayed in the second half. against that Ravens defense. And I think there's definitely scope for the Niners defense to be that effective. The Niners defense is a pass funnel to running backs. So if you're tackling effectively well against Pacheco, I think you're stopping some explosive plays there. And ultimately, I'm counting on Nick Bosa being a good mismatch against the likes of Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor, who I don't have very high grades on. So,
I do want. I'm going to push back on all of this, and
Okay.
I'm going to start by saying, Joe Thuney is almost certainly out.
Yes.
I mean, it's a certainty. Like, he's not going to play in this game. And that does affect what I'm about to say. But teams did not use heavy boxes at all. I mean, teams they saw heavy boxes at the 26th highest rate this year. The Chiefs did. Teams were so, and I don't trust Will. I don't think he's going to do this. And sidebar, I mean, when they did see heavy boxes, they had the 5th most yards per carry, the 10th best EPA per rush, and were still a very good running team.
Sure.
And on the other side of that, Wilkes and the Niners, they used heavy boxes and the 26th most amount of frequency, and they weren't very good defensively when they did stick other guys in the box. They were, not getting tackles for loss, or actually tackles for losses were good. I misspoke. Everything else was shit. When they went heavy boxes, they gave up explosive plays at the 6th worst rate in the league. So I wonder if it's stylistically just not what he likes to do. It's not something they had to do because they were leading in so many games.
Sure.
That's the kind of the context you have to put to this. Like, think about how this season went. Well, why would you go heavy boxes when teams are passing and passing and passing because you're constantly ahead on the scoreboard? So I do wonder what's going to happen there with their attempts to stop the run, because I don't see it happening. I don't think they're going to be good enough against the run. They haven't shown it, no matter what they've thrown at them. They really have to find ways to rattle Pat. And like the guys, the Kelseys and the Pachecos against the soft zone over the middle, like, those guys should eat. So it might be maybe another one where this is the reason why I like the under, because I think the Chiefs are going to move the ball.
You think they can eat the clock?
Don't think it's going to be on explosive plays. I do think it's going to be a lot of 3rd and 4, easy conversion, 3rd and 3, easy conversion. Just like a lot of getting to 3rd downs, but converting them, moving. 4th down, we're going for this. It's just a yard. Like, longer drive for the Chiefs. And then I guess we'll see red zone variances up in the air. I do wonder about. I think I'm going to take the under anyway, but this is kind of fucked up to say, having it under. I'm almost hoping we get 10 points in the first 2 drives to take some more under, because We've seen that from, especially on the Chiefs side, we've seen like, oh shit, Scott, like, I want it to be 7-3 Chiefs at the end of the first 2 drives.
I mean, you kind of want to be on the under in the second half blindly, right?
I'm saying I want to take more under at that point. I want to take like
under 50.5.
I want 50, 51.5, and I want more under, and watch it land at 38, man.
Yeah. Because I mean, honestly, I sit here right now, and we could pre-record the halftime show.
Hey guys,
under 23.5 sound good?
Shit,
good. All right, let's go.
We were hoping for a 24, but it's 23.5. We're still gonna take it, you guys. It is the Chiefs.
Yeah, either of these teams shortening the second half of the game seems likely. The idea of a second half shootout is very tough for me to wrap my brain around. So we'll see.
Yeah, the only way would be the second half Niners we've seen, but again. This is such a better defense that if the Niners do put out just a terrible game plan, which is, within the realm of possibilities, I don't love their comeback chances as much here.
We agree.
Although like we mentioned, the previous matchup between these two teams in the Super Bowl, we had a great defense and a great offense, and in the end, the offense is the one that came through.
Yeah, that's
I hope it's a good ending. Like, I guess I want it to be like 13-10 late, so my under's fine, and have a good ending.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me. Okay, I don't have a ton of skin in this game. I have talked about this already this week, but if you haven't heard me talk about it, I will. I have conditioned myself to this point in my betting career to ramp down as we get to the Super Bowl because I want to enjoy the game. I don't want it to be a deciding outcome. for any
Drew
one way or the other.
Shanahan getting conservative at the end of the year.
Exactly. I already won my Super Bowl, Andy. The general, kind of stakes here for me are pretty low because I just do like I'm ready to turn the page and we're on to NBA and draft season, buddy. Like I'm pretty over it. So
I'm working on trying to get down to the combine.
yeah. So do you have any kind of other closing thoughts or other props that really stood out to you, or have you heard any other analysis that you really want to shine a light on that you think is especially valuable here?
No, I mean, my only other notes were just people are going to make the case that Joe Thuney is a big deal, but Nick Algoretti has been fine and filling in. The bigger deal for the Chiefs is the missing pass rusher, Emenehu. That probably matters more than Thuney because you need it's a Chiefs team that's, they were number 2 in sacks, number 2 in defensive pressure rate this year. They need to keep that up. Like, they have to rattle Purdy. Both teams have to have the pass rush get home in order to slow down these, one side a really good offense with I'm not going to say game manager, but you know how it is. Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone. God, those memes were just killing me this week. And then on the other side, you obviously can't give Mahomes a ton of time, although these are both guys who, I don't know, you give them enough rope and they're going to throw a terrible interception sometimes.
I dig it. What was your prop for the pizza stream?
Pizza stream prop was Isaiah Pacheco to be the leading receiver by receptions, not yards.
Receptions. Oh, so like reception, 8 for 50 is sick.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he had a 4. I think it was a 4-catch 0-yard game. Maybe that was one of the other running backs, but no, it was a Pacheco thing. He has had a game already this season where he was the leading reception getter against the Bengals. I think it was 9 games where he had at least 4 targets, 7 games where he had at least 4 catches. I mean, it's something that's in the cards with some teams that are, cast of characters. If we do shut down Ayuk and he only gets 2-3 catches, like basically you just need, like Kelsey drops 4 balls or something. I think he does need 6-7 catches. So I might play some Pacheco alt catches over because nothing is going to hurt worse than him having like 8 catches on 9 targets and Kelsey has 14 on 15 targets.
Oh, don't say that.
Well, I mean, let's say your Niners win.
Yeah.
Well, you're still expecting Kelsey to have 8 catches, right? It's not gonna.
There's people like Rufus who are out there like ready to fire away on some unders in the close for Kelsey, and I'm just like, okay, man, have fun. Good luck.
I could see yardage unders. I could because they're again. You've seen some decent tackling. Oh, man, Chase Young. Let's see if somebody bets. I see somebody was making a case for Chase Young MVP. Like, did you not see his effort in the other game? Like,
you could get 3 sacks. You never know.
That got written about.
It was, but sometimes when it gets written about, then the player hears it and it changes their, their.
That's true. That's true.
All right, so 2 intangibles questions for you, and then I don't have much else unless you have some exotic, weird, fun.
Yeah, I have a couple other points after that, but yeah, throw them at me.
So, is there anything to the potential that the Niners having escaped death against the Lions? Are they potentially just going to play a little bit more carefree?
Looser?
Yeah, a little like WTA faced match point type of looseness out of the Niners potentially.
God, there is that. Like the what movie is that? Fight Club?
Sure.
You know where they take that guy out of the store and put him in the back alley and point a gun at him and tell him they're going to murder him?
Yeah.
He said, what do you want to be? What did you want to be? And they said, like, and I mean, it's just one. No, I won't do spoilers in case there's like 3 people in the world who've not seen Fight Club. But what does Brad Pitt say there? He's like, that guy's going to wake up and have the best day of his life tomorrow.
Best breakfast he's ever eaten in his life.
Best breakfast he's ever eaten. Like, there is something about like facing the barrel of that gun, watching your season. I mean, I've played sports, man. When you're down big, like you're not all just like duckies and bunnies. Hey,
Yeah.
we're gonna come back. Like, it is definitely in your mind. Like, fuck, this is over.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's the meme. Like, oh man, it's over. Oh man, we are so back. So I mean, maybe there is a little footloose in fancy free play because of the, the several near death experiences by them already.
Okay, so that's a good commentary. The other intangible or weird question I had for you is, I've been getting close to pulling the trigger on some bigger bets for Pat Mahomes MVP. No, and the thinking is that his equity is too high this year for a couple of specific reasons. One is there is a Kelsey effect. It's not trivial. Like, do not mistake this. Like, he is the focus and talk of Las Vegas right now. He was the focus and talk of media night. There are definitely writers who are under the pressure to make the vote who would love to write a column that cites Travis Kelce's performance and mentions Taylor Swift and gets an extra 5 million impressions. And I think that there is definitely a lot of scope where, as long as he just gets on the scoreboard to the tune of 7 to 10 catches, 80 to 100 yards and a touchdown, two touchdowns clinches it, I think.
Do you think the DUI affects, like, subconsciously, like, I don't want to vote for Mahomes. His whole family
don't really want to write about him right now. Yeah, don't like. Do you want your Monday Super Bowl story with the Chiefs win? I think you want it to be about Kelsey.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a weird thing. I do love, one of my favorite bets I will make this week will be during the game on the MVP.
So this is I'm so glad you went there.
There's so many different prices out there.
Yeah.
Watch that. Like, I'm not saying like put together a portfolio and you're gonna come out with some ARB and be way ahead, but it's usually painfully apparent by like early in the third quarter. Like, if this team wins, this guy's getting it.
Yeah.
And you can look at those prices, and they usually don't line up, because it's not a two-way market like the money line, so it can't line up in general. But usually there's some money to be made on that if you have the balls to make some bets on that.
I feel like a Mahomes MVP is very script dependent, where it's literally just they're down multiple scores and he brings them back. Like last
he has to put the team in his
which means if you have no at minus 180 and it's 28-3 Niners and you're like, I don't mind a little live Mahomes MVP at 30-1, right? Like, I definitely think there's a chance that you can take some risk off there, because again, like, if it's the other shoes on the other foot and it's the Chiefs are winning easy, like, then it gets real.
It could be
focused,
or you get he wasn't the guy who got them the lead, but Pacheco ended up with like 150 yards and another 60 receiving because they were in a game state where, they led most of the game, which is funny. I looked that up today for the Pacheco prop.
Yeah.
When they're up by 8 or more, they don't turn to the run all that much, especially relative to other teams in the league. They were like 26th in the league. They still keep throwing. So, I mean, again, I think that thesis is more of Pacheco, House's, a screen pass late, and it's like, shit, he has 2 touchdowns. One of them was a 1-yarder, but 2 touchdowns and 150 total yards is something we have to look at, because there's a bit of fatigue too to some of these guys.
Mahomes has two.
That is what I was scared of Damian Williams. I was sitting on a Mahomes ticket that year.
Yeah,
and Damian Williams probably deserved it.
There was an X factor, a narrative factor of people wanting to write about Mahomes and the comeback, and that was why he got it. And I think there's the X factor this year of the fan vote being 20%, which apparently has been around for a while. I did not know that, but the Swifties have been they've infiltrated the voting process so that it's not a fair vote. I think even the Swiftie win, I feel like this fan vote's probably going to go to Kelsey. So.
Swiftie write-in votes are yet to be counted. The Maricopa County officials are closing the doors as we count the Swiftie write-in votes.
Yeah, so I definitely think there's a lot more likelihood of Mahomes not getting it if the Chiefs win than in a normal year, and so I'm going to be on some Mahomes no before we get there probably, but I haven't bet it yet.
I wonder if you can get a good number on that in game too.
Could be,
and I don't know that a lot of people will be offering a two-way market, but again, I think you're you're betting on other people as
Yeah.
as a surrogate for the no in that spot.
Exactly. So all of the Niners win space, and all of the I want to write about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift in the media space is kind of at your tailwind there, I think. And I think that's I've convinced myself that's a fun plus EV. That's just because it's a two-way bet. Like, fuck, who cares who wins this game? Like, Mahomes didn't get the MVP unless it's a massive comeback, in which case I can protect myself. Anyway, I don't have anything
My
else
only
really.
my only last thoughts are we still underrating this Chiefs team because the negative plays stick out like sore thumbs, and the offense didn't look good against him? I mean, that was one of the best defenses in the league, and they trucked them during the scripted portion. They got the lead.
Yeah.
Let's just let that sleeping dog lie and say, they did rein it in a little bit because they had they had the lead. They were sitting there. Their defense was playing good enough. They were getting lucky with the turnovers, because if you go back and look at the season where they lost games, obviously there were some good teams.
The Raiders game on Christmas is tough to defend it anyway.
No, that's what I'm saying. So all of these games were just like, they just had horrific turnovers.
Or they needed 2, 3, or 4 to make a play, and they didn't.
Yeah, it was that
happened a lot.
It was so the Buffalo game. They had that one, obviously, with the Tony thing.
Yeah,
that was another game where it's like
Tony's drops against the Lions.
Tony, not just Tony's
MPS's.
drops. One of those drops was a tip to a defensive player that went for a touchdown.
That's right.
The loss at Denver, Mahomes was sick. That was a 5 turnover day against a defense that was kind of peaking a little.
Yep.
The Philly game was Kelce had fumble. That was the drop by MVS, which was another touchdown that,
oh my God,
he was let down by. The Green Bay loss was that was a loss.
Well, that was a no call.
Yeah,
it was a clear and obvious Valentine pass interference that was not.
Yeah, I'll give him that too. And then the Vegas one was the most probably embarrassing loss.
That one's indefensible.
To throw those 2 interceptions, and let's say they both end up as field goals rather than being returned, you probably win that game. But I mean, their offense no show. That was a Raiders defense I'd like to give some credit to, because they were really on the come up.
Well,
for the most part, people haven't.
Do you know what defense doesn't get credit? The Miami Dolphins defense in the wild card round that shut them down in the red zone like 3 times. Like the Chiefs were absolutely useless in the red zone in that game.
Well, and I think it was because it was a pretty good defense that just didn't have a pass rush. And once things got a little, constricted, and those coverage, the coverage players could use the sidelines and the end zone as extra defenders. Like, it did turn out a little better. So I will say I'm just kind of making the case that the Chiefs beat themselves an awful lot this year.
Yeah,
and if they play a clean game, this is a coin flip again. This should be a good game. I hope this is a good game.
Yeah.
If anyone has any prop questions,
I hope it's a Niners dump trucking.
Oh, I want a good game.
I want Pat Mahomes' bad playoff game finally, and everybody to have to figure out who to blame.
Yeah, the Miami game, as Vodzilla's pointing out, the Miami game was weird too, because it was cold.
It was balls. Like -20, right? Okay.
It's crazy how nice it is.
Yeah,
that.
I'm not a prop player. My props are weak anyway. But I did find the steamiest prop on the board, which was the Purdy attempts under 31.5. That thing's getting out of control, steamed down.
Yeah, a bunch of people are on that. The trendiest one. I think the trendiest one is use check everything. Everybody is on that. I'm not saying it's like square
for and against.
It's. I mean, I've seen
Everyone
people all
wants
over
a piece
that.
of use check.
Everybody wants that use check over a half catch at like -150.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a weird. This wasn't a loss, so I didn't mention it. But Durso with a good point. The Chiefs' offense has done this a few times where that was a comeback win, but it took 6 straight field goals.
Sure, that's kind of where I'm at. I think it's a flawed unit, and I think I think that's
how many points do you think the Chiefs need to win?
29.
Oof. I don't love that for an over or under.
For an under, no.
No, I honestly, I think they get to 24. They can win this game.
Okay.
And they're the kind of team who can have that, most of that in the first half. They need to have a strong first half. I think if you do want to bet the Chiefs, it's not Chiefs in comeback mode kind of thing. I think I would probably look at Chiefs first half.
Yeah. Okay. Did you make any props on any of the stupid weird stuff?
I'm looking. I'm gonna put together a card.
Okay. I don't want to spoil anything because I don't even know if there's bets to be had or made on the inside info, and so
dude, no, bet online. But I will like $10 and some of that stuff. I'm gonna go searching.
There's some skins apparently that have it, but I've not.
Yeah, I need to get some. I need to get some accounts opened.
We will tell some funny stories about the halftime show once we get some idea of exactly what's going on there, because that one's been the weird one. First song of halftime show. If you haven't been following along, is kind of the wild card.
Yeah, I think I'm on the Reba under. I haven't finalized that yet.
What, you're going against the Steam?
Yeah, I don't.
You see that you can get 500 down per click at.
I don't think the Steam's real right now.
Oh, they did the rehearsal.
I know, but I don't think it was. I don't think it's the right info right now. I'm not saying I have anything.
Okay.
Don't go betting the anthem on me, but I still think like the Steam went too far. So I did see it move, and my number was a little lower than that. So I don't know. Well, wait. If I have anything of the anthem, we'll Discord players will get it first. If you're in the Discord, doing a prop show in there tomorrow night. The Discord guys put it together. Tay and Brad and Drew's gone again. But yeah, we'll have some stuff. The Aliens tie parlay is very tough to price. So in that scenario, is it tie in regulation, or the game is called because of the alien attack and they call it a tie like Bud Selig did?
If anyone needs to know what time a given award is because they have especially large position for or against anyone, I can hook you up with that. And if you are not interested in seeing DeMar Hamlin win Comeback Player of the Year, do not tune in at 7:40 Pacific.
Yeah. We will, and if you are in the Discord, I put a link in there. I'll drop it again in like the awards chat, but I put together a Google form with the exact same like voting methods that the actual voters do, because I wanted to get a temp on where the Discord was. I'm gonna turn it off at like 8 a.m. Central tomorrow and tally up the votes. I'll put it in the newsletter. But it's been some interesting votes. There's been like 75 people that voted already, so we have a bigger sample size than the actual voters at this point. And
I think they're not all trustworthy though. Some of those guys are voting their book.
Well, that's what I know. I'm like, I don't want to tell these people not to vote their book. Vote however you want to vote in this. Just vote. Because, and that's the thing. You can throw out maybe I throw out some outliers.
Okay.
Now we're gonna take them all. Points a point.
Take them all.
10 points for first place.
Okay.
I do gotta talk to you about your ballot though.
Okay. Sounds good.
Off the air though. So I don't have a whole lot more.
Yeah, I don't either. Let's wrap it up. I think this is going to be a good Super Bowl. We'll tune in at halftime if you're looking for some halftime action. But as we spoiled it in this podcast, I think you already know where we're going. So tune in for confirmation.
That can change for sure.
Yeah, if one of these teams is just doing dumb shit on defense and we're expecting more points, we'll change our opinion, I guess.
Oh, for sure. So, all right, you guys, catch you at halftime of the big game. Enjoy yourselves. It's later than you think. We'll catch you then, guys. See ya. I'm not even gonna do music because I can't find it. I'm just doing this.